Hello again and welcome to my YouTube video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the circle of bullying and also discussing some of the signs and symptoms that could indicate that your child or teenager is being bullied. My name is Tracy Maxfield. I'm a nurse, author, peer specialist and staunch Stop Bullying and mental health advocate and educator. And this is number 18 in my series of engaging, educating and empowering our children and teenagers to deal with bullying, mental illness and suicide. So the circle of bullying, otherwise known as the bully experience. Who exactly is involved in the circle of bullying? Because most people just think it's the bully or bullies and the victim. But actually it goes one step further, because in the circle of bullying, yes, we have the bully and the victim, but we also have the assistant, the bystanders, the upstanders and the bully victim. And each person plays a significant role in that circle. So first, I'd like to talk to you about the victim. I won't actually talk about the bully today because if you recall in my YouTube video and blog post number 16, I went into a lot of detail about the bully. So who are the victims? Well, sad to say, because it is control and a power imbalance, a bully will tend to pick on a victim who is perceived as being lesser than or weaker than them, the bully. I think it's important to note that any child or teenager from any economic social standing can actually become a victim of a bully, but usually it is those of a different ethnicity or culture. It is a child that maybe is of a lesser social standing, such as maybe a migrant, or a parent is incarcerated, or they live in poverty, or even are homeless. We also have those who have a different gender. So when I say different gender, I'm talking about maybe lesbian, bisexual, gay, transsexual, or queer. And then, of course, we have those that maybe have a different religion that they follow. It's those differences from what the bullies and what kids and teenagers perceive as norm that actually categorize them more as potential victims. So other factors are they may be less popular, they may have low self-esteem, they may have difficulty getting along with others. They may be those kids that are always antagonizing or provoking or are in your face, and even when you tell them to back off or leave you alone, they'll still kind of continue. And those kids usually don't have good social boundaries, and they are not actually good at reading social cues and behavioral cues. Other ones are those that maybe are perceived as weak or different or unable to defend themselves. To think of maybe a child or teenager who has a learning disability or a physical disability, or maybe have a visual or hearing impairment. And then of course there's the mental disorders. If they know that, for example, a teenage girl is self-harming, she could become a victim. If they know a child is maybe dealing with obsessive compulsive disorder or has a depression or anxiety disorder, there is an increased likelihood that they too will become a victim of a bully. Now, what is very important to note is that just because a child or teenager may present with one or more risk factors, it does not automatically mean that they will become a victim. And I think this is important to remember. Children and teenagers who have a good sense of self-worth and self-esteem and have good assertive confidence skills are less likely to become the victim of a bully because they feel loved and feel good amongst themselves, and so they're actually able to stand up to a bully. So then let's talk about the assistant. So the assistant could be actually more than one. It's somebody who actually follows the bully and wants to be in that bully's social circle, but also wants to do whatever the bully wants because they want to be the bully's friend. There's an inherent fear that they will be bullied by the bully if they don't comply, and they have their own self-esteem and inferiority issues because they need to belong and with the group that is maybe perceived as stronger, more popular, more in the know. And so what the assistants do is they actively encourage the bullying behaviour. They egg the bully on and others, and they actually may even engage in some bullying behaviour when it suits them. They're very careful and they can be very sneaky. So your classic example of that is a teenage girl who actually does not do the bullying herself but engages her bullying group to do that at her request, and they are your classic assistants. Then we have the bystander, and the bystanders actually we can categorize them into three different groups. It's those who enjoy the show, it's the sidekicks and wannabes of the bully, and they would comprise also the assistants, and then we have those, the silent majority. And the silent majority are the most dangerous because they could actually turn the bullying experience around and be an upstander. So the silent majority actually watch and do nothing. There may be a number of factors for that, either because they generally don't want to, or they've always been told to not get involved, or they may feel that if they do, they would then become the victim of the bully and may be subjected to harassment and threats and intimidation. Or it may be because they truly do not know what to do, and they themselves may have either been bullied in the past or are being bullied, or may be going through some family problems at home, or they themselves may be treated for a mental disorder or exhibiting signs and symptoms. And so you can see there are lots of factors as to what comprises the bystander. Another factor could be that if, for example, the school where this is taking place does not enforce their stop bullying policy, and they know that by reporting it, nothing is actually going to be done, then in all likelihood, the silent majority will not intervene. The challenge is that when you stand by in a silent majority and don't do anything, you will harbor embarrassment, shame, and guilt, and it will get you. And it's not uncommon for bystanders to go through some of the feelings that the victim goes through and also experience emotional issues because of what they've witnessed, and that fear that they don't want to be that person, but also that they know deep down they should have done something to help the victim. And so bystanders, it's a 50-50 situation. It's really difficult, but what we want to do is to empower bystanders to actually become upstanders. And upstanders are those who actually say no to bullying and stand up to the bully and help the victim. So they will either stand with the victim and they will say to the bully, this is unfair, this is not appropriate. They will say, I'm going to report you, this is not going to happen anymore. Or they go to the victim and they remove them from the situation to a safe place, and they actually befriend them, and they enable the victim to get a little bit of power and control back in knowing that they are supported and they're not alone. See, what happens in the bullying circle is that if we have all these people in this circle and no one does anything, what it reinforces to the victims is A, they are to blame, the bully has all the power and control and there's nothing they can do, and that everyone believes what the bully is saying, and so the victim feels completely hopeless and helpless, and this does not do anything to their self-worth and self-value. They will just continue to feel depressed and sad and angry and frustrated and anxious, and just will not know what to do. And can you imagine how horrible that feeling is, to have to go to school day in, day out, knowing that they have an entire school, an entire group who they believe is against them. And then the last person that comprises the bullying circle, I feel it's vitally imperative that we discuss this, because the bully victim is the most dangerous in that bully circle. Because the bully victim is a child or teenager or teenagers who has gone through the bully experience and could even be going through it at that time. And despite reporting it and reaching out for help, no one has actually listened and validated their concerns and acted in their behalf. And so this anger and frustration and powerlessness has actually now turned into a significant higher level of behavioral issue. So they will take great pleasure in seeing another person victimized. If they feel that the victim is someone that they could actually add into their little small group, they will do that. And that's scary. Otherwise, they will just enjoy that because they get satisfaction from what other people are going through, because they've been there and they're actually still there, but they've now turned it into great anger and frustration. And what researchers have identified after doing a lot of studies into school shootings is that the majority of school shootings are conducted by bully victims, and they find that they have poor communication and coping skills. Also, they have difficulty relating to others, so they were always seen as alternative or different. But more so, they turn all this into a need to take revenge, and the revenge is always in violence. And so they don't necessarily take revenge against the bully. They take revenge against the bully and the assistants and the bystanders as well. All those, including the school and teachers, who they felt saw the bullying behavior and activity and did nothing. And so when you think of bully victim, I urge you to really go one step further and think of Columbine, Sandy Hook, Parkhurst, school shootings where the bully, the bystanders, the teachers, and maybe even innocent parties that were not even privy to what had happened in the past, but happened to be in the same class, and so they assume they're guilty by association. This is your bully victim. And I'm actually going to read out the statement which was on the suicide note of Eric Harris, who was one of the Columbine shooters. And I've not committed it to memory because I don't believe that's respectful, but I think it's important. In his suicide note, he wrote, "Your children who have ridiculed me, who have chosen not to accept me, who have treated me like I am not worth their time, are dead." And so again, I cannot stress enough, if we do not address bullying and deal with the bully, but also address what's going on by the victim and encourage our kids and teenagers to be upstanders, then we're going to continue to have more bully victims that are going to take revenge, and school shootings have almost become part and parcel of normal school routine. They will become weekly, monthly occurrences. So signs and symptoms that your child or teenager is bullied: faking illness to miss school, sudden loss of friends, lack of interest in going to school, or anxiety and great stress at having to go to school, not doing well at school, they're failing their grades, they're not turning in their schoolwork, or you find out that they're not actually arriving at school, they're skipping school and playing truant. They sit alone in class. They don't go out at recess, and they don't engage or play with the other kids or interact with the other teenagers, and they stay with the teacher. They may become more withdrawn and isolated, and school may have actually reported to you. They may not participate in any more out-of-school activities, and you may find that they're not even on social media or interacting with any of their friends. An important point to note is that you can also be cyberbullied, and that's your total bully experience. So you have it at school, you could have it maybe on the school bus coming home, and then you're bullied online. They may start taking a weapon to school. You may find that coming home and money is missing. They may be asking you for more money, or things are missing from their backpack, or they appear to be bruised and have unexplained scratches. Their clothes may be ripped or dirty, or a favorite sweater or jacket may have been missing, and they may just say, oh, I left it behind, or I lost it. Another thing is that you may see that they're verbally or creatively expressing their emotions in art, in poetry, in music, in statements. Look at their body language. They may seem unusually angry or frustrated or isolated or sad, and remove themselves to the home, to their bedroom. Other things, you may find that they may complain of headaches, digestive problems, not feeling hungry, self-harm. They may start eating lots of junk food and taking their meals in their room. Again, we cannot ignore the link between social media, mental illness or mental disorder, bullying, and then we have to go one step further, substance abuse. It's not uncommon for kids that are being bullied to, quote unquote, try and solve their problems by taking drugs or by drinking alcohol to make themselves feel better and give themselves a high. Another thing is they may become very disruptive and uncooperative, not only in the classroom but also at home. As I've said in many blog posts and YouTube videos, any behavior, there is a reason, and it's determining what is that reason. So if you notice that your child or teenager is presenting with one or more of these signs and symptoms, and I can guarantee you it'll be at least 5 of which I mentioned, then you really need to sit down and talk to your child or teenager and try and find out what is going on. Connect with the school, connect with friends. Try and determine something is not right. You need to be there, and you need to listen and support your child or teenager. If you don't do anything and they don't get any help and this continues, then they are at a high increased risk of substance abuse and addiction. Mental health disorders such as depression, absolutely, anxiety, maybe self-harm, suicide, and we know that suicide related to bullying is now called bullycide. Academic problems, so again, they may fail school and drop out, and so what kind of futures do they have then? Behavioral issues such as violence, and ultimately we know death. Or they may become a bully victim. If you have a child who has expressed that they're exploring their sexuality, it may be interesting to know that up to 1/3 of gay youth have attempted suicide, and 29% of those said not only did they have suicidal thoughts, but they had been bullied daily and repeatedly for days, weeks, months, even years. Of those who had attempted suicide, 38% of bully victims reported that they wanted to die. So you can see we have a huge connection here. Lots of teenagers and children right now are struggling to identify their gender. They may feel different, they want to express that difference, but it does put them at an increased likelihood of being bullied, and consequently of having some suicidal thoughts and ideation. So I hope you found this information helpful. In the next video and blog post, and remember this will be in more detail at www.tracymaxfield.com. In my next video I will actually be discussing how to deal with a bully and how we can help stand up and help empower our children and teenagers when they are being bullied, what we can do just as the general public, as teachers, counsellors, and as parents. Thank you.